Hey, Kevin, do you want some lasagna?
Basically like a barrel.
I made lasagna.
What?
I made lasagna.
Who's Tanya?
What?
What?
Kevin, do you want some lasagna?
You stepped in what?
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 What? What?
I made lasagna.
Tomorrow is mañana.
What?
Yeah. What's going on, everybody? Hope everybody had a fantastic Thanksgiving weekend here in Canada. And you've got some time to spend with some family wherever you are. On today's show, you're tuned into CMA Connected, presented by SiriusXM. We're going one-on-one deep with, as you can see, or as you saw from that intro, Mobile ES by Sony. Wow, what a bold move from Sony to bring back the elevated standard. And today on the show, we are talking to the right people to give us the right information so that you guys, the dealers, can figure out if this is a line that's right for your shop. So to first understand Mobile ES, we need to first understand the infrastructure of the distribution of Sony car audio products here in Canada. If you don't know by now, then you should, because Sony is distributed in Canada by Gentec International. Gentec has the exclusive rights to distribute, so if you're a shop in Canada, they are who you need to call. So before we get into the product, let's first understand the setup. Go ahead and introduce my guest. He is Eddie Bozo from Gentec International, and he's the man with the master plan when it comes to Sony. What's going on, Eddie?
Hey, good morning, guys. How are you? How is it going, Ben?
I'm doing fantastic. I hope you had a great Thanksgiving weekend.
Yes, we did, just like everybody else.
Good.
Yes,
good,
it was
good,
wonderful.
Good. Sony ES kind of making some noise, making some waves. But before we get into the goody stuff, let's get an understanding about the relationship with Sony and Gentec. Now, how long has Gentec been the distributor for Sony car audio in Canada?
Well, this spring it'll be 5 years. So we're just over 4 years where we put a partnership together. It was actually out in Vancouver that we did at one of the previous automotive shows. So we were excited to bring Sony into the mix. Sony is a very important brand to Gentec. I mean, Sony as a brand is one of the top 3 global brands from a consumer perspective. So it was nice to add the car portfolio to our mix.
Yeah, and Gentec just carries so many premium lines in other categories, not just car audio. It's a full-out electronics distributor, as we know. But as a line, so just to be clear, we're talking about the entire Sony car audio line, not just ES, to make that clear. This is the entire gamut, correct?
It's everything that's Sony and that's car audio is in this building.
So all the categories, the amplifiers, the speakers, correct, the subs, all the regular line of radios. And now, adding to that catalog, is this Sony Mobile ES catalog.
Yes, the upper echelon of Sony.
How long ago did you know about this? Be honest.
Pardon me?
How long ago did you know about this was going to come out? I mean, I have a feeling you had some insight that we didn't.
Actually, it was kind of top secret until middle of this year when we started getting snippets of what was coming down the pipe, which was very exciting.
Were you giddy? I know you and Nima are probably hit in your room or like giddy. Nobody knows, but this is coming because I would.
Well, yeah, you know, we just want to make sure we weren't around any open mics.
That's right. Fair enough. So what does that mean though for Gentec to not only carry the standard line, but now to carry something higher end, upper echelon, like you say?
Well, what it means not just to us, but to the dealer base, it gives you some form of, makes car audio about what we all got into the business for, which is sell technology. I mean, years ago, the reason we all got into this was because the aftermarket has some really cool stuff that you can get at OEM. I mean, a lot of people forget the first DSP, the first car changer, the first navigation piece was all done in the aftermarket world. And over the last few years, it's been kind of, let me say, boring to find out at all the cool stuff OEM is launching. So with ES and back to technology and back to what we all got into this business for, that's the most exciting part about it, is because you can actually sell something that you can talk about and substantiate.
Absolutely. And so there's 2 points here that I want to get across. Now, and we're going to talk about this more in detail. Now, mobile ES, is that available to all Sony dealers?
No, you have to, as a Sony dealer, you have to qualify.
Oh,
so basically think of it as, if you're a dealer that's selling certain automobiles, you don't necessarily get the premium brand until you kind of requalify. It's the same thing. We're doing it for 2 reasons, because we want, number one, to protect the dealers that make the investment, and number 2, to ensure the consumer experience with ES is at the highest levels of our industry.
Very, very cool. Very, very cool. Now, the last thing before we bring on our specialist here, who is joining us from Sony. At first, we saw the speakers and we saw the sub. Nobody saw what came afterwards. And I'm sure he's going to contest that the sign was on the wall, the writing was on the wall, and nobody's seen it. But all of a sudden, boom, there's a new head unit, and it's under the ES brand. What did you feel about that?
Well, I mean, you can't have an ES system without the source, and that would be the head unit. So, I mean, it completes this life cycle of this product. I mean, you need to have a source, you need to amplifiers, you need speakers, all dedicated on the ES platform.
All built to work synonymously with one another.
Absolutely. And that's, I mean, think about it. That's like a car manufacturer coming out with a really cool car, not building a nice transmission to support the engine.
Right. 100%. Well, listen, I think I've teased it enough. Why don't we bring on our product specialist that's going to kind of walk us through all the nitty-gritty tidbits and all that juicy information that our dealers want to know, and we'll bring him on. What do you say, Eddie?
Absolutely. I got to say this.
Yeah.
He's from the music capital of North America, live from Nashville, Tennessee.
Did you get it right this time? I don't know. Is it Nashville? I can never remember. Kris,
it's Nashville. I got it right this time.
Is it Nashville, Kris?
That is right. He hesitated, though. He was going to say Memphis again.
I was about to say Memphis again.
All right. Listen, I tried to hype you up, man. Like, you know what I mean? I tried to tell the story about how this thing unraveled into this industry. I heard nothing of ES coming out, and boom, it was there. And next thing I know, there's a head unit staring me in the face that everybody's talking about.
You know, as small as this industry is, at least here in North America, it's really hard to keep a secret. And, our North American team here, we call them the tech team. We did a lot of work to keep this just under wraps. So all the product testing, all the product engineering, product design stuff that we were working with Japan on, just ultra top secret. Select few people had any, idea that this was coming. Including the distributors. Once we started kind of dropping some hints to them that something big was coming, there was probably some raised eyebrows because, I'm assuming that some of them were like, okay, a new head unit, whoop-de-doo, right? So, because that's probably, the impression that they had. But once they heard what was actually coming, there was almost stunned silence on that call. It was like, wait a minute, what? And it was actually really kind of refreshing. So then when we finally in early May dropped the news on that live broadcast, people were pretty stunned, that it was coming back out and that it was shipping. So A lot of cool things, man. A lot of cool things going on.
We're here to get the story behind the whole thing so that people can be informed as to what's going on. Oh, man, this guy won't stop, so I'm going to have to throw him up. But Cumber absolutely wants to give you a shout out. So there you are, Keith.
What's up, Keith? How you doing, brother?
There you go. Let's get the story. So I'm old enough to remember, when the first time that came around. I'm also from the home audio side, so I remember that moniker as well. So, but I want you to kind of take a step back and say, okay, where did this ES thing come from as far as Sony is concerned?
So I'll be honest with you. So me and a couple other guys on the team here have been begging for this for years, because Sony's a really well-known brand, as Eddie alluded to earlier, one of the top, recognized brands in all of consumer electronics, not just car audio. But it's really hard to kind of differentiate yourself from the pack. Even the second and third tier products nowadays are really good, products, right? Overall. So to really kind of separate yourself and stand apart, you've really got to just do something big. And we've kind of been, begging for this from Japan for 4 or 5 years at least. And then once we finally kind of got the pseudo thumbs up, we had to now design the product, right? So the Japanese team, their engineers, their product planners, their designers were very receptive to our feedback and kind of our direction on what the product had to have, which is, you can see it when you hold and touch and feel the product, that it's designed by people who know car audio. So it's really, really cool stuff to kind of play with. And listen, we had to do 2 things, right? We had to live up to the original Mobile ES brand and what it kind of meant to a lot of people. But we also had to make this relevant in today's industry, right? So, it's not $20,000 and that you're going to sell 4 systems a year. That's not what it needs to be. This needs to be something that's astounding value and astounding performance, astounding quality. All of those things have to be met. Back in the day when the original ES came out, I would say it was almost easier to create a really good product. Really, all you had to do was spend a little bit more money on the components that were going into a radio, for instance, maybe spend a little bit more time on the manufacturing side, putting it together to make sure it was perfect. Nowadays, that stuff is almost standard, So to really just go above and beyond, we've really kind of specified Sony, specific parts to go into these pieces. We took a lot of time engineering, even the speakers, just to make sure they'll fit and that they're durable and they're easy to install. There's just a lot of stuff going on here behind the scenes. And once the retailers get these products in their hands, start putting them in vehicles, there'll be a lot of appreciation just for how easy we've made it.
I hear 2 things in what your comments you just said. And the first thing that pops to mind is integration, right? Mm-hmm. Because back then they did whatever you did to make the product, figure out how you put it in later. The integration part was just part of the deal. Nowadays, man, if your product doesn't integrate, it's not going to sell. Mm-hmm. That's just part of it, right? So that's number one. The other thing I heard, back then, engineering, a lot of it had to do with the precision and the mechanisms involved, the transport, the whatever it is. We're talking about a mechless digital device, right? So that's a total contrast as well. Eddie, I don't know if you have anything to add to that, but I think it's important that we understand where it came from to see where it's going.
Well, even like Kris says, a lot of the things that Sony does on their head unit particular level is proprietary. Even something as mundane or taken for granted as their Bluetooth chip. The Bluetooth chip in all the Sony pieces, not just in ES, is proprietary to Sony.
Oh.
And it's a difference you can measure. So there's an example again about paying attention to what goes into your little box.
Mm-hmm. Very, very cool. I think you set the stage. Kind of excited to kind of go through this so we can see and devour this information you're about to present to us there, Kris.
So you said something about, I would argue that the writing was on the wall, and you're 1000% correct. Back in May, when we did our live broadcast announcing the speakers and the reintroduction of the Mobile ES line, there was a statement in that presentation that was made that nobody caught. Okay.
I missed it completely.
And it was this. It was Sony's top-of-the-line product with the highest build quality and refinements for an unmatched audio and video experience. Mm-hmm. Okay. And people just read that and just kind of moved on. You know, they didn't think much about it. We were talking about speakers, and the immediate question after the presentation was like, well, what else is coming, right? Well, we kind of gave you the hint, you know, that this was the big deal. And with that, we are introducing the XAV 9500 ES. So those should be into distributors' hands within the next few weeks, and in retailers' hands early-ish November, right? So part of the reason we're able to do that is because of some of those proprietary parts that we're using. We get to kind of skip to the head of the line on some of those, you know, manufacturing and processing things. But yeah, this is the new flagship, you know, kind of head unit in our lineup, and it should kind of set the bar, you know, pretty high. This is a logical evolution from the older RSX GS9, right? So when the GS9 was introduced, it really kind of set the bar extremely high for music reproduction in a vehicle. Whether you were a high-res fan or not, just the deck itself was built in such a way that it was kind of reminiscent of those Mobile ES, you know, decks of the past. And the components used, the way it was designed, all of that stuff that went into it was pretty stellar. The giant problem with it was horribly hard to use, you know, and, you know, we had to fix that. We wanted that same high quality sound reproduction, you know, plus we wanted it to be something that people wanted to have in their car, you know, and I think this kind of, you know, checks both of those boxes for us.
So before we go too far, Kris, just out of the gate, I want to understand this. Is this a single deck with a floating screen? Single DIN, sorry?
It is single DIN, and it does have a floating screen. It's a 10.1-inch screen. Yep.
And you made reference to the GUI. Is this a new introduced GUI?
The entire platform is new, and all of the user interface is refreshed. Mm-hmm. So you'll see on that screen there, it looks very familiar to our new decks, or to our current decks. But you'll notice that little arrow over to the side. This is all apps. There's far more features on this head unit now, and you can rearrange those icons, and you can adjust the wallpaper and the background and all that stuff to match your consumers, you know, preferences in their vehicle. So just a very customizable deck, and just a lot of built-in features that are far superior to anything we have right now.
And are there any like hard buttons on the top, or those are all tactile buttons?
Across the top, I mean, we're Sony, right? So there's two things that we always want to accomplish. We want to reduce distraction while driving, right? That's a big part of our game here. That's why we were the last ones, you know, kind of with a knob on the smaller decks, where, you know, we've always got tactile buttons somewhere on the deck, right? And across the top edge, you've got your home, volume up and down, track up and down, and voice activation. And then those two white bars you've got on the front of the screen there, those are customizable soft buttons. So you can program those to be one of 8 different functions on the deck for whatever you need. Yeah. So the tactile ones, you can reach up and adjust your volume and track while you're driving without even looking. And of course, that those white buttons down there, you can customize to whatever you want. You know?
Of course, Ricky likes these.
Yeah, I was just going to say.
Ricardo, what's up, man? So yeah, so Sirius XM. So, but let's say somebody doesn't care about maybe the Bluetooth icon, because every time they're connected to it, they're in CarPlay or Android Auto. They could move that Bluetooth icon right off of that screen, replace it with something else.
The USB input, you know.
You could even remove a lot of these buttons and just drag them all down to the bottom, so it's a nice clean 1, 2, or 3 icon on there. You know?
Except Sirius, you can't remove.
Yeah, Sirius. Yeah,
it's like a tattoo. That just
so to be clear, you can move it, but I don't recommend it.
No, I don't recommend it. Formerly from Sony, do not.
Ricky knows where you live.
Yeah, I'm in Memphis.
I'm going to say off the bat, let's just get this out of the way. This is Sirius XM Ray. You can add an SSV 300 to this.
Yeah, so unlike the GS9, that, you know, like I said, this is the logical evolution. So, you know, Sirius XM, of course, the port's right on the back, just like it should be. You know, we've got a lot of cool features. Let me buzz through just a couple. We've got finally wireless CarPlay and Android Auto.
Wireless.
So it's pretty stellar. We've been using it. Our team has been testing this for 6 or 8 months now, and just kind of worn the thing out and made a ton of improvements throughout that time. So just a lot of cool stuff built in here, but just a very good, very clean, quick interface to your phone. It does, in fact, finally have iDataLink Maestro back, and it does include all of the current iDataLink Maestro features as well. So, you know, that's something that's kind of, you know, horribly been missing from our lineup for a while. So now we have
in
that back.
contrast, is how many other units in the line are currently Maestro compatible?
This is the only one currently, or this will be the only one currently. The cool thing about all of the features you're seeing, like the wireless connectivity, the Maestro capability, just like Cadillac with GM, kind of trickle down technology effect to the other lines. You'll start to see those features pop up into our core lineup, right, as well. So so we'll have some of those other decks available to the non-ES dealers, or to those guys that are ES dealers that also want the core level kind of lower price stuff. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Cool.
So
that is a direction that Sony Mobile is going.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, listen, we've always wanted those ourselves, right? It's just we were working with kind of an older platform that just didn't have the capability to do all of those things at the same time. And us, like we are driven by having a great customer experience. If it means removing or not including a few features so the core experience is better, that was kind of the choices we had to make, right? So, but I got to be honest with you, like this thing is fully loaded and ready to go, so it's good. All right. So like on sound processing, we talked about that. I've talked about this being kind of the evolution of the GS9, but I really want to point out that kind of the 1 year or 1.5 year delay with COVID, while there was a lot of like bad or frustrating things that happened with that, there were some positives, right? And one of the positives that we were able to kind of take advantage of was having the latest and greatest sound performance chip that was available. This particular chip, this ES9080Q, allows us to do a lot of really cool things with this deck that that nobody else can. This chip itself was introduced December of 2020. So had we introduced this earlier, we wouldn't have had some of this cool new technology available, right? So this does do DSD playback through PCM conversion. We just didn't feel that having the higher level, 512, DSD capability was necessary. Like 0.001% of our users ever, took advantage of that. What we instead did with this chip was included the HyperStream technology, which allows it to kind of upconvert streaming sources. Okay. And the important part is this, like when you're connected with CarPlay or Android Auto or Bluetooth for that matter, you want it to sound as good as anything else you're listening to, right? And this chip does its best. You could compare it to like having a 4K TV with like a 1080p signal coming into it. It'll do its best to make it, if it's an upscaling TV, it'll do its best to kind of make it as close to 4K as possible. And that's what this chip does. It's a very smart chip, and it will try to kind of increase that sound quality as much as it can.
How unique is this chip in the industry?
It's the only one. It was, like I said, it was introduced in December of 2020. There's nobody else that even had a chance to use it, right? So, I don't know that it will be used in something else, but it could be down the road. But the development cycle with us just happened to hit at the perfect time. So there's nothing else on the market that has this.
Okay.
Yep. And this includes
selling point.
This also includes LDAC Bluetooth technology. So Sony's proprietary information and LDAC conversion is pretty unique. It does a very good job of kind of giving you the best possible Bluetooth streaming quality, and it's now included in this deck. We've had LDAC on most of our devices for a long time, like headphones, home theater, all that stuff, but we never had it on our car audio side. So we now have it in this deck. So if you have a device that plays or will stream through LDAC technology, you can stream directly to the radio with that. The CarPlay Android Auto actually streams audio over the Wi-Fi connection, so no need for the LDAC on that. But if you're just connecting via Bluetooth, you can use the LDAC technology. So,
and this is the chip that handles the EQ, the parametric, as well as the time alignment.
That's true. So that last bullet point there, we were able to add quite a few things on the sound processing side. And I've actually got a screen. I'll show a few snippets of that. But what I want to talk about first, if you don't mind, is no, it's all good. So very similar to the GS9, this has a very unique chassis behind it. So that single-din chassis was important to us from an installability standpoint. We want this to go in as many cars as possible, right? The doubled in's great, no problem, but then you've got to try to make it shallow to fit more vehicles. This singled in gives you a lot of flexibility as an installer to kind of get it in a lot of applications. The chassis itself, just like the GS9, has a separate digital and analog board. And that doesn't seem like a big deal. You're like, whatever, but here's the reason it's important. You have a lot of digital processing on this deck for the sound processing, for the Sirius XM, for the CarPlay, Android Auto, all of that stuff. That's all digital information that's being processed all the time. And digital components are great, but they're very noisy. And when you've got analog components, especially in a chassis like this, and I'll go into something in just a second here, but when you've got an analog board that basically creates your sound from that, those can be very noisy neighbors. So what you want to do is separate those, isolate them, shield them from each other, and then you can reproduce better sound, okay? One of the reasons that's super important is we have an actual Class AB amplifier built into this deck. So that's a pretty unique feature in the industry. All of these components that you're seeing on the screen here, the choke coils, the capacitors, those are all Sony specific parts with a very, very high level of quality control in place. Okay.
That echoes what Eddie was saying earlier about the proprietary stuff right there. There it is.
Yeah, it's very cool. I mean, this, like I say, this kind of helps us avoid the supermarket lineup at the bin of parts,
Right.
Which, and that's not a discredit to, I mean, even our core line stuff uses some of that stuff, right? So we don't want to disparage, but this is the next level stuff for sure.
For a source unit, especially. So what for the record, what is the power rating on this factor from the source unit?
It's just a 24, I think, or 25 by 4. It's not a huge output, but it does have speaker outputs. The GS9 did not, so it's not a deadhead like that one was. There is no digital output. We always get asked why we don't have optical output. We're not big fans of optical output, especially when you've got a high-res deck, because it does limit you a little bit. It kind of kneecaps your signal and some of your capability of control down line, right? So just, for your retailers out there listening, it does not have an optical output. Just be aware of that. That's all. Okay. All right. And then last but not least, let's talk about some of the sound processing, which is really cool. It does have individual time alignment for all 6 channels. So we have a dual subwoofer output. It's a stereo, not a mono like on some of our other decks. And each one of those can be time aligned, so time delayed, basically, for the distance to the driver. If you look over the top right, you'll see that we have increased our 10-band EQ to a 14-band. It gives you a little bit more control over that frequency control. And then down at the bottom center there, we have an 8-band parametric EQ, and that is per channel.
Per channel.
Okay, so per channel parametric EQ at 8 bands. And the cool thing about this is you can use the parametric, set that first, and then you can kind of use that graphic EQ on top of that to add the salt and pepper to your potatoes,
Couple questions. Number one, of the other source units in the regular range, do they have this type of time alignment feature as well? And how does that differ if it does?
So the only other decks in our lineup that ever had any sort of time delay or time control were our GS decks. A few of those are still on the market. The GS80, the GS900, some of the high power decks, the non-video ones had that, but you had to use the separate app called Music Center to access that. It wasn't built into the head unit. So with all of this capability on board within the head unit with no external app required to control that, you could essentially, in a basic audio setup, maybe bypass using one of those very simple processing units. You might be able to set up the entire system just from this head unit,
And does this walk you through some type of setup wizard of any kind, or is this just manual input?
There's no wizard. That you have to turn on the parametric EQ. So if you get into that level, if your customer does, it's full access. So be aware of that. But if they turn that on, they can adjust things. They may come back to you for a tune after they mess it all up. But just be aware of that. If you
sometimes you want that, sometimes you don't. I guess it depends on the situation.
I would never want my customer adjusting it after I've tuned it properly unless they needed something. But that I would direct them to adjust the graphic EQ for you to kind of adjust their preferences instead of the parametric, because the parametric should essentially be to set up the sound system to replay music properly. And then your graphic is a little bit more your taste on top of that, right?
Pepper, like you said.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
very cool.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, that's it. That's all I got on it. So
I got more questions if you don't mind.
okay, that's cool. Yeah.
So I had a lot of comments from that last, I guess, show that we did about the optical in and out thing, and you just touched on it. So so what is the options then as far as output goes on this unit?
You've got 5-volt RCA output, and when we say 5 volt or 2 volt or whatever, that's per jack. That's not a cumulative, total on all the jacks. So 5 volts per RCA jack of output. You do have actual speaker outputs on the deck as well, so no problem there. You can do whatever you need to do with it. The parametric and graphic EQs are applicable to both. So you could essentially use both of the outputs if you're doing a little bit bigger system and need some of that fill or whatever with some lower power through the head unit.
Crossovers also or no?
We do have a lot of crossovers. You can adjust them. You can set a low pass, high pass, or band pass on the 4 channels and a low pass on the subwoofer outputs. And that is a very visual experience. I don't have a picture of that here, but you can see it right on the graph, right on the screen of how your adjustments are affecting the signal that's being put out.
So, sorry, could you just run through how many outputs there are in total of this unit?
6 total, 6 channels.
Total.
So you've got front left, front right, rear left, rear right, and then 2 like a stereo subwoofer output.
Stereo subwoofer out.
Yep.
Okay. Very, very cool. Let's back up a little bit, Eddie. I want to include you on. I want to ask you some questions about this. What does a unit like this mean to a shop to be able to have something like this? What have you heard? Because obviously it's been out. The information's been out a lot. I want to hear some of the feedback you've had.
Well, the feedback is, I mean, the guys that love selling car audio.
I mean, Keith just said he ordered 12
about it.
more
Keith's on
live.
there.
Like, I'm going to show it again. He literally just said, "I just ordered 12 more," and that's
He wants to order 12 more. That's a testament to the excitement when you bring product to market that's actually exciting to sell and backed by technology. And the key here is unique new technology brought to us aftermarket guys. That's the most exciting part about all of this.
What are some of your
like for example, I mean, wireless CarPlay.
Mm.
That's the future. And I mean, not too many manufacturers have cracked the holy grail in aftermarket for that.
So pretty slim pickings actually for that feature, to be honest with you.
Right. And I mean, if you again, it's leading edge technology. I mean, it touches audio people, it touches consumers that want convenience, consumers that want safety. I mean, that's just an example. Again, technology.
Sony's always been known for their screens, especially their higher level screens. We didn't talk too much about the video side. What is the video performance like on this unit, Kris?
Video performance is great. This is a high definition screen, and it uses a bonded architecture. So it's got the glass panel on the surface that has an anti-glare coating on top of it. So it reduces most of the glare that hits it anyway. But the LCD panel that sits below the glass has an opaque or transparent glue that bonds it. So there's no ability for the glare to come through that surface to the LCD and then reflect back up to the bottom of the glass. That's actually what causes a lot of the issue with like polarized sunglasses in a vehicle. And I think Kenwood uses a similar architecture on a couple of their higher end decks, but this one has that feature. Very clear. If you've seen it in person at one of our shows or trainings, it's pretty spectacular to look at. Just a great looking piece. Real quick, just one other note. So being a floating screen, we have the typical up and down, in and out to the dash and tilt back and forth adjustment of it. But we also have a left to right adjustment as well. And which could be in some vehicles pretty important. Our CHR demo car, for instance, that we just had at Knowledge Fest, we moved that over to the right because as you're sitting in the driver's seat, if it's centered on the kit or that on your installation method there, it just looks a little cramped next to the steering wheel. So moving it over about an inch to the right makes it look much better in the vehicle. So that capability right there can kind of avoid some of the implications of putting a tablet-sized radio into a vehicle that wasn't designed for it.
I should circle back. I didn't ask you about video inputs.
There are 2 extra camera inputs besides the rear camera. Those are Maestro triggerable, and we will eventually have the capability to trigger those. There's a trigger in the harness for both, but that'll be a software update first quarter next year.
Software, okay, but so there's total of 2 auxiliary video inputs.
Well, they're camera inputs, not video.
Camera inputs, right?
Yep.
Okay, very good. Let's talk a little bit about who is the customer for this. Eddie.
For me?
No, let's go with Eddie
okay.
first.
Yeah.
Who do you think the customer is for this? Because there's a couple levels to this. Because you just said not every Sony dealer has access to this. You got to be qualified to be a mobile ES dealer. But what I want to know is, who are you selling this to? Is there still a market for high-end source units at this point?
Absolutely. I mean, if you think about it, and if you look out in the marketplace, that's a hard question to answer. Not because we don't want to shoehorn any particular customer, because this customer could be driving a brand new $100,000 vehicle, or he's driving a $10,000 10-year-old Honda that he just wants to invest his money in audio. It comes down to audio video experience on the road. That's our customer, not defined by particularly a car they drive.
I'm going to add one more layer to that from what I've learned in talking to so many brands and industry specialists. That source unit is critical for a couple things. Obviously, sound, the video experience. Yes, absolutely. But it's also the only place the customer is touching and being physically connected to their sound system, right? So the whole look, feel, connection physically to the unit is a big thing. And I might, I'm just going to put this up again here. That is one slick looking device. It looks modern. Like there's the rounded soft lines. Everything about it makes it very, very modern feeling. So I'm just going to add to your answer, Eddie. I completely agree with what you said. But people who might buy this might not necessarily be a car audio nut. I'm just saying. I'm thinking just someone that likes technology and wants the latest and greatest in their car.
Well, wireless CarPlay, that in itself.
That, add to that, by the way, get wireless CarPlay, make it look sexy at the same time. Yeah,
right.
Put it in. Right. I mean, I think, and Kris, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I feel that there's that market for this type of unit as well.
I mean, listen, I don't judge a book by its cover, so I don't really care what they're driving. Right. So, the customer, right. You broke up there. I don't know what you said. No, I mean, listen, you shouldn't determine by the vehicle what somebody wants, right? That's just a really bad sales habit that you might somebody might get into. But here's the deal. Somebody that comes into your retail facility and is wanting a high-end sound experience, then we now have the source unit and the speakers to provide most of that experience, right? And I don't want to amplify anybody's expectations, but you should be looking for some new products that are going to be here next summer that should kind of complete that chain. So
I'm just going to pause this so everybody can just marinate that for a second.
I don't know what you said.
I know your style now. I've learned my lesson. You drop hints. So you just got to pay attention when you do it. You know what I'm saying? I just left that there. I've got a question for Eddie coming up on the screen. What are the requirements to be a qualified dealer? Because that's something we could talk about here.
First and foremost, they have to be a Sony dealer. And then once they're a Sony dealer, there's a buy-in requirement of X amount to show with some backup inventory. We want the experience that a customer goes to the Sony ES store, experiences the product, and then can buy it there on the spot. Because we do live in a society where it's instant gratification. And we really want our dealers to have backup product. Not a lot of backup product, but just enough to satisfy a customer's experience.
I'm going to assume there's some expectations involved with having the product on display as a system complete and so
Correct.
on and so forth.
Yeah, basically, in the industry, we call it basically one to show and some backup inventory.
To go, yep.
Yeah.
Yep, 100%.
Now, one to show needs to be hooked up and running, not just on a shelf in a box.
Is there a special display catered to just mobile ES, or is this something?
Not right now, because ironically, a lot of our better independent customers have incorporated their own custom displays into each one of their stores. We didn't really want to dictate that. I mean, there'll be some POP that goes with it,
sure.
But that's not a requirement. No.
Okay. A couple more questions here for you. As far as is there special training protocols or expectations from a dealer level when it comes to being an ES dealer?
Absolutely. What happens is that our local dealer, our local reps, will be our first contact. If our local rep, I'm talking out in the internet world to a lot of people right now. If they're not available, you can always reach out to Nima. He's available in our office 24/7.
I'm going to go ahead and put up some information here on the screen. Eddie,
Yeah,
while you're
Nima,
talking.
you can reach out to Nima, and he can give you not just the initial investment, but some of the other things you're talking to about backup training and such like that. We have some really good reps right across Canada. They can definitely answer, and I'm sure most of the customers out there know who they are already by name. So it's like a team effort here between ourselves, our reps, Nima, and then the Sony family out of the States. We feel like we got you covered pretty good.
Yeah, because I do feel like this is one of those brands you need a little, lack of a better term, elevated standard of training and product knowledge
Absolutely.
to support the customer properly.
Right.
Then we've got a lot of Sony trainings going on within our Sony Facebook dealer group.
Right.
And those guys that are in there will hopefully see those pop up from now and then, now and again. But there's a lot of, even on the speakers, just a lot of technology built into those and a lot of capability that just looking at the box, you don't know, right? And especially if you have not put them on display or into a demo car, you simply don't know, and you cannot possibly sell those ES speakers properly if you haven't heard them yourself, right? Because they're pretty spectacular. They've got they're highly installable, just a very compact frame, very low protrusion height, very shallow depth, reinforced mounting tabs for the terminals, and then low nominal impedance at 3.2 ohm. An aluminum shorting ring that reduces all the distortion in the mid-range. Just a very good sounding speaker.
That classy touch of that right there looks real nice. That with the gold accents. And I don't know what the technical term is, but the lines in the surround.
Yeah, the notched edge surround.
All signature little details, right?
Well, and listen, we don't just put stuff on there to be flashy, right? Every one of those is functional. So that edge that's into that surround allows it to move farther. So you have more excursion out of that than just a standard rolled edge, So
how much power was the amplifier that goes with that again? The ES amplifier?
I don't know what you're talking about, man.
Damn it, I tried.
Plenty.
Oh, I tried. All right, so
Benny's better than that.
I know. But, I wouldn't be doing my job if I wasn't trying. All right, so let's recap here. Mobile ES gets launched earlier this year. Takes everybody by surprise. You get the speaker lineup, components, coaxials, subwoofer, right? And then out of nowhere, while everybody's like, "Woo, cool speaker," and boom, hit them with where it hurts with this guy right here, the XAV 9500 ES. And since then, you have mentioned in passing that there might be other things to help complement the system. We're
going to continue hitting you where it hurts with product.
I'm ready to be hurt. Where it hurts. And in Canada, you're going to deal with Gentec. You're going to become a Sony dealer, and then you're going to find out from your local rep what it takes to be a mobile ES dealer. There's a buy-in expectation and an inventory expectation, rightfully so. But knowing that you'll be pretty exclusive in your area, because I imagine there's some territory protection in that. It's not every shop, Uncle Bob shop that's going to have this stuff. That you need to know. But there also is support and training that is involved if you want to be an ES dealer. Did I sum up that pretty?
Absolutely.
That was about it.
Yep.
That's it.
What message do you have, Kris? I'm going to leave you. What message do you have for dealers who are seriously watching this and saying, mobile ES, huh?
Yeah, I mean, you should have a gut instinct right away if this is a right fit for your shop, right? I mean, it should be pretty obvious. If you are just so ingrained with other brands for speakers that you'll just never consider a Sony speaker, then we're not going to change the stripes on a Zebra, right? Because selling the ES speakers with the head unit is pretty critical to our mission. It's kind of the package deal, right? So, and Eddie at Gentec and the team over there can kind of fill you in on some of our expectations as an ES dealer, but you should have a pretty good gut feeling whether this is a good fit for your store or not. And even if you aren't currently selling some higher end product, maybe this is an opportunity to consider that, right? This could set up a new level of customer or even expectation out of your facility that maybe you weren't able to accomplish before, you know? So I think the message from Sony to the retailers is we're trying our damnedest to get you product, both ES and core line. So bear with us as we try to dig our way out of this supply issue that is currently still ongoing. We're doing everything we can to get you product quickly. And these are some small examples, the ES speakers, now the ES head unit. We've had some good trickle in of the other products as well. So just bear with us. We are every day working tirelessly to fix that. And you've got to be trained. If you're on our Sony dealer Facebook group and you're not attending the trainings in there, shame on you. You've got to get in there and get that, right? Because it talks a lot about this stuff and it talks about our new products. And make sure you're in contact with your reps at Gentec, because they know when the stuff's hitting. They know the requirements. They're your point of information for all of Canada. All right.
Absolutely. Very good. Kris, can't thank you enough for joining us once again and shedding some light. And I'm going to get you back when that, whenever that other stuff makes.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yes, sir. You have a good one, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Take care.
Thanks.
There we have it, Eddie. A little bit of ES knowledge dropped on us by the Mr. National Trainer himself. So I'm going to point that same question back to you. What message do you have dealers looking at? Oh, Gentec. Oh, Sony Mobile ES. Maybe it's time I make the jump.
I mean, Kris nailed it pretty much. I mean, the reality is we want to support you guys out there and give you a product that you can sell, product you can make money on, product you can tell your customers this is cool, nobody else has anything like it, it's leading edge product. And again, support that with some dealer training, support that with, again, most important thing, profitability, and support it where we can with inventory. Because
inventory is, yeah.
And that's quite frankly, another reason why we want to basically pick our dealers carefully, because that's the other thing we don't want to do is get into a situation where we make a lot of people upset because we can't supply.
And that's right.
So it's a twofold thing.
And I'll tell you, I'm going to give Sony kudos where it's deserved. Not a whole lot of new, exciting, innovative product has come out in this category in this times. And you know what? They made it happen. So high five to them for that.
Absolutely.
I'm going to throw up the digits one more time, guys. If you're watching this and you might be interested in getting on board with Sony car audio, or hey, Sony Mobile ES is something that tickles your fancy, get a hold of Gentec. Visit gentec-intl.com, or that is Nima's personal home cell number, so you can call him and bug him anytime.
That's right, 24/7.
That's it. Eddie, thank you so much for taking this time. Good luck with this Mobile ES. I know you're going to find some great dealers out there if he leaves any for anybody else to buy.
Thanks, Ben. Thanks, guys out there, and ladies, for all the support over the years.
All right. Take care.
Appreciate it.
There you have it, guys. That was Gentec with Eddie Bozo, as well as Kris Bulla from Sony Car Audio USA, talking about the new Mobile ES line, and in specific today, the head unit. Lots of incredible, cool features. I hope you guys can get on board with that if that's something that fits your fancy. On that note, it's been great. Thanks for joining us today. We're here all week on CMA Connected, presented by SiriusXM. I'm your host, Ben Wu. Until next time, we connect.